my name is Joe McCall, and I'm going to be just giving you a quick crash course. Buckle your seatbelts. A crash course on how to wholesale a lease option from beginning to end. And I'm going to share a little bit about my story, real quick, why I love lease options, wholesaling lease options. And I'm going to cover the steps. This is the meat and potatoes right here of these steps. And I'm going to cover an example deal from beginning to end, and I'm going to show you how to take it to another level. I'm real excited about these things that are going on right now, and I love teaching this stuff. I love it. I get so passionate and excited about this. And there is going to be a time for question and answers at the end. Now, I can't stay up that late answering all the questions. I did this webinar earlier, and I had way too many questions that I'm sorry I couldn't answer all of them. But I'm going to do my best to answer all your questions at the end of this webinar, and should be about an hour long. And you can ask questions then at the end. I'll do my best to go through them, all right? So let me tell you about my story here. I always wanted to be a real estate investor. I won't go into all the details about kind of my story and where I was at, but I grew up in a real poor family. I didn't know I was poor, but my dad always had that entrepreneurial spirit. He was a janitor, and I love my dad to death, but I did not want to follow in his footsteps. Now he actually owns the largest janitorial company, privately owned janitorial company in the Midwest. He's doing very well right now, and he lives a lifestyle that many would only dream of. But he works very hard, and he's paid a huge price for that because he's worked very hard doing what he's done. And but I've always wanted to be working for myself, being an entrepreneur, and I've always loved real estate. In fact, this morning for my podcast, I interviewed Wendy Patton, and her book was one of the first books I read 6-7 years ago on lease options, which got me real excited about lease options in this business. And I got a chance to interview her for the podcast, which is really awesome. And that podcast, by the way, is realestateinvestingmastery.com. Realestateinvestingmastery.com, if you don't know about it. So I've always wanted to be a real estate investor, but I had no idea how to do it. And I can tell you, if there's been a mistake to be made, I've made it. I bought a ton of homes. I got into a ton of debt. I had a lot of private lenders. And I won't go into all of the problems and things that I did, but I was in way over my head about 3 or 4 years ago. I had a serious cash flow problem. I was equity rich, but I was cash poor. And then the market crashed, and the equity that I thought I had vanished into thin air. And it was very, very stressful time in my life. I remember not being able to sleep at night, waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning in a cold sweat, completely stressed out. My stomach would hurt from the stress of how was I going to pay the bills this month, and how was I going to keep these mortgages current. And it was just horrible. And I knew something had to change, and this really hit bottom for me when my wife one time was in the drive-thru at McDonald's. My kids were hungry, and she wanted to buy them some food for lunch, right? And the debit card gets declined, not the credit card, okay, because our credit cards are maxed out, but the debit card, the one that from our checking account was overdrawn, and it gets denied, and she has to leave the food there while my kids are asking her, why are we leaving the food there? And she has to drive them home without any food. I couldn't even feed my kids a $3 Happy Meal. That's how bad the situation was, and I knew something had to change. And so I started looking at wholesaling, okay? And I've always been taught in the past, you've got to learn wholesaling because that's what puts the quick cash in your hip pocket national bank. That's what pays the bills, right? So I dusted off the dust from my old courses and opened them up and started reading about wholesaling again. And sure enough, these courses might have been a few years old, but everything they said on there was exactly what I needed to do today, and I knew it. And so I just said, you know what, I'm going to stop questioning what they say to do, and I'm just going to start doing it. And so I got the postcards. I looked at step 1, okay, send postcards. I sent the postcards. I didn't change a word on those things. I kept them exactly like they said to do it. And all of a sudden, I started making some money wholesaling. My first deal I did was a triplex way out in the sticks. The seller practically begged me to buy the house. She called me 3 times before I called her back. And it was a duplex that had expired, a triplex that had expired the year before for $140,000, and she wanted me to buy it. And I wasn't even interested. I didn't even send her a postcard for that property. It was for another property in a nicer area. And I told her I'm not interested. She begged me to, I actually remember I told her I'm not interested, and we got off the phone. She called me the next day. Just make an offer, okay? And I said, fine. I couldn't find any comps. There's nothing like it in this area. I didn't have any cash buyers in this area. So she had expired the year before for 140, right? And I just pulled a number out of my you know what, and I said, you know what, 50,000. I'll give you 50 for it. And she said, okay. And I said, what? She said, okay. Well, I said, all right, I'll meet you tomorrow. I mean, I was so nervous. I didn't even want to meet her that day. I thought, I don't know what to do. So I said, let's meet tomorrow. So that whole night, man, I got out all of my courses. I looked at all the contingencies that I could find to get me out of the contract in case it didn't work. I probably had like 6 contingencies in there. And I met with her, got the contract signed. I was so nervous, sweating bullets. I thought, man, this can't work. This can't be that easy. How can I sell this thing? I was stressing out. And so anyway, the next day, I listed it for $65,000. Again, I had no idea what it was worth. I just said, well, I'm going to shoot for the moon, and I'm going to ask 65 for it. I got 3 calls that day to make full price offers. I took the first one that accepted, and I sold it for $65,000. I had it in the contract for 50. I made a $13,000 profit on my first wholesale deal, and I was hooked. I thought, man, this is awesome. I love wholesaling. Okay, so I started doing more and more of it, but I got frustrated. Why? Because not every deal is a big $13,000 home run. I mean, that's a home run for wholesaling for me, okay? Not every deal is like that. Well, I started throwing away a ton of leads. I was spending between $3,000 to $5,000 on postcards. And I was getting a lot of calls, but I was throwing away probably 80-90% of my leads because they didn't have enough equity and they weren't behind on payments. And if they had equity, they weren't willing to share any of it with me. And I was a full-time job, so I couldn't go and meet with them in their house. So I asked myself, what can I do with all these leads? I mean, these leads would be perfect for lease options, you know? Then it dawned on me. Something hit. Something clicked, and I said, well, why can't I wholesale lease options? And thus, Wholesaling Lease Options was born. My wheels started spinning, man, and I started getting excited. And I thought, I can flip these instead of selling them to cash buyers, instead of negotiating and beating them down to 50 cents on the dollar and trying to build the rapport, then negotiating them down to rock bottom price and dealing with only the most motivated sellers. Why can't I wholesale that as a lease option to a tenant buyer? And it was just amazing how excited I was, and how all of a sudden then I realized I'm onto something here. Now, I didn't invent this strategy. People have been doing it in the past, but the way I do it is very unique, and how I outsource it and have it systematized is I don't honestly know anybody else who is doing that. So within 3 months of flipping these lease options, and I was working a full-time job, working 50, 60 hours a week, completely stressed out, working part-time, another full-time job really from home, neglecting my family, neglecting my kids, and just completely stressed out. Within 3 months of flipping these lease options, okay, I left my job. And this is a picture of my last day at work. Guess which cupcake is me? The secretary at the job site made this. This one right here, yep, that is me. The secretary at our job site made me some cupcakes. And that was almost 3 years ago. And ever since then, man, I really, really am grateful for what I have now. I got 4 awesome kids. I wish I could show you pictures. I get to work from home. I get to hang out with my kids. I take them to the zoo, or I take them to different things all the time, whenever I want. And, I flip 2 to 4 lease options a month right now. I only work, and I'm not exaggerating, on my business, flipping deals. I only work 5 to 10 hours a week. I have literally outsourced 80 to 90% of my business to virtual assistants and to local realtors, okay? So I love what I'm doing. And I also get to teach and coach people, which I really, really do have a passion for that. I really enjoy it. And so I've put my heart and soul into building a Wholesaling Lease Options Academy in this course, and teaching people and coaching people about this stuff. And I really, really love what I'm doing, and I'm really grateful to God and my family for giving me the opportunity to do this. So that's what I'm going to share about, and that gets me excited. So I got to concentrate now. Back on this presentation. Now, let me explain why I love wholesaling lease options. And in my opinion, really, there's no easier and faster way to make big chunks of cash. If you were to throw me into the other side of the world in Prague, Czech Republic, and you said, look, you had to make $5,000 in Indianapolis, Indiana, this is the exact strategy I would do. Okay. I love the cash flow. I love that there's so many sellers who can't sell and so many buyers who can't buy. The statistics, I just read this recently. There's 10 million sellers out there who cannot sell their house, who want to but can't because they don't have any equity. These aren't people who are upside down. These aren't people who are facing short sales or foreclosures. These are people who want to sell their house but can't because they don't have any equity. 10 million. And there's 30 million buyers out there who want to buy homes right now but can't because their credit's not good enough. All right, what does that mean? There is a huge supply of sellers and a huge demand, an even bigger demand for those homes. And so the investors that are succeeding today are ones who are experts in creative financing, who understand lease options and quick turning these to put these sellers and buyers together. Okay? Now, there's very limited risk, if any. That's why I love options, right? Lease options allow you to control property without owning it. And that's why the risk is virtually eliminated. Okay? You are completely out of the deal once the tenant buyer is in the home. All right? I only work with nice homes in nice neighborhoods. I truly have the ability to help people now who have little to no equity. Before I was throwing those leads away, man, those leads are golden. Send them to me. I'm not taking over the deed anymore. Another mortgage payment is the last thing I want. I can do this business virtually from anywhere in the world. And in fact, I'm going to prove that in a few months while we are over in Europe. But you can do this business virtually from anywhere in the world. We were in Colorado a few months ago in July and had a blast, but I was able to do my business from Colorado. And in fact, we decided last minute to extend our vacation. I didn't have to ask for additional days off. I didn't have to ask permission from anybody. We just decided to stay a little longer. And I was able to continue doing my business from Colorado here in St. Louis. I love this business. The way I've set it up is you don't have to see the house or meet the sellers. Non-confrontational. You don't have to negotiate a rock-bottom price. I don't have to, again, take over any mortgage payments. It's easy to outsource almost everything, and I'm not kidding about that. The way I have it set up now is my VAs get the property under contract. I get it in my email, okay? And then I just send that contract over to my local realtor who's selling my homes, my local sales rep, and I say, here you go. She then takes it, gets the pictures, does the video, puts it on Postlets and V-Flyers, starts marketing it on Craigslist, does the signs. She just takes my checklist and does everything right there. So bing, bang, boom. Now, I'm not saying you can get there right away, okay, but you got to do a first couple deals. But this business is awesome because you can outsource everything. I outsource all my marketing for sellers to my VAs, and I market all of my marketing for buyers to my local realtor, okay? You don't need a huge marketing budget. Yeah, I have some VAs, but I'm just paying them a few bucks an hour, okay? But they're awesome at what they do. And I do pay my realtor, but I pay her when I get paid. So she only gets paid if the deal sells. All the sellers and buyers you could need are already in Craigslist. How much do you have to pay to find sellers and buyers there, right? So this is perfect for the beginner. The guys just getting started, don't have a ton of money, don't have a ton of time. Listen, I was working a full-time job flipping 2 to 4 a month while I was working my full-time job, just doing this part-time and outsourcing this stuff as best I could. So that's why I'm excited about this, because I can help people do this as well. So that even if you're an experienced investor, this is a great tool to add to your tool belt to do something with all those leads that you've been throwing away in the past. All right. So let's talk about the steps. The steps in wholesaling lease options. I'm going to fly through this, okay? But I want you to remember it's important to keep things simple. I try as my best to make this as simple as possible for you guys. So don't think that you have to have a website, you have to have virtual assistants. This business is so easy. It is so easy to find a seller and just give them a simple agreement that they just have to fill out. You don't have to negotiate any price. Here's your offer. Mr. Seller, what do you want for your house? Okay, I'll get it for you. Okay, they fill that out, send it to you, and you start marketing the home. okay? And if it's a nice house and the rent is reasonable, you're going to get tons of calls on that house, all right? You do the paperwork and you assign it and it's done. It's as simple as that. Okay, so don't think you have to have your business cards and your checking accounts and your LLC set up and all of this stuff and the VAs. And it's really just as simple as picking up the phone or sending off an email, okay, talking to a few sellers, talking to a few buyers, okay, doing the deal. So keep things simple. I cover a lot of things in my course. You know, I'm going to just be giving you 4 ways to find sellers and 4 ways to find to talk to sellers, and where to find them and how to talk to them. And but in my course, I have tons of them. I'm just going to try to cover the basics here that I can as simply as possible. So marketing for sellers, obviously the first step. What to look for? You're looking for, real simply, motivated sellers. Now, they don't have to be drop dead motivated, bottom of the barrel. Semi-motivated is fine. Okay, that's really most of the sellers are. They have a little bit of time. They're not freaking out, but I can help them. Now, it's okay if they have very little equity. In fact, one of the things I teach is how to find the sellers with direct mail. It's very easy to do, that don't have any equity in their house, and it's very easy to find those. I'll show you how. But you're looking for the median home price. You're looking for 3+ bedrooms, good school districts, and remember, you can only sell homes people want to buy. All right, very simple. Now, where are the sellers? I'm just going to give you the 4 best places. I have at least a dozen in my system on where to find the sellers. These are my 4 favorite. Craigslist, obviously. If you go in the for rent, the for sale by owner, and other FSBO sites, that is a great place to find the sellers. And they're all right there. Let me just show you how easy that is. Let me go right here to Craigslist, and I'm in St. Louis. Tabled but not dead. Please stay tuned. Good grief. Let's go to housing, and I zoomed this in so you could see real easily here. What I do is I type in this thing. Every ad has the words map or location in it, so I do these keyword search, map, comma, space, location, and I'm looking for ads that do not have the words realtor, realty, broker, apartment, condo, townhome, townhouse, apartments. All right, and so then I do a minimum rent of $800. Somebody's asking me if my slides are supposed to be changing. Do you see the... Oh, it's not showing my screen. Can you guys see the mind map now? Let me open up the dialogues here, questions. Sorry about that. Slides are not changing. Yes, you can see my mind map. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that. By the way, you will be getting this mind map. I will be emailing this out to everybody. So you will be getting this mind map. My apologies for that. Thank you, Lisa, for texting me and letting me know. So you haven't missed much. You haven't missed much. I talked about my story. You heard me. The picture, you guys didn't see the picture? Oh, let me open the picture here. Did you guys see that? Guess which cupcake's me? Right there I am right there. Let me make sure here. Okay, good. Somebody's asking me to go back over from the start. No, you crazy? This picture of the cupcakes is me. Dang, I can't believe that happened again. That same thing happened on the first webinar. Arg, it's frustrating. So this is my story, and why I love lease options. I talked about these things. Really, you already heard what I said. Remember to keep things simple, and then you're going to get a copy of this mind map. First, find the seller. This is what you look for. Okay, I already said this stuff. And then where are the best places to find sellers? Okay, Craigslist, expired listings, absentee owners, and active listings. So let me just show you real quick on Craigslist. You should see my page now here on Craigslist. I'm looking for these positive keywords and these negative keywords, ads that do not have these words in them. And I'm looking for 800 plus a month in rent, and I'm looking for 3+ bedrooms, and I click search, and that's it. I just go through these one at a time. and try to filter out the ads. Like, for instance, this one says no lease with option to buy. So I'm probably not going to contact them, right? And so honest renter wanted. I'm looking here for a phone number. This doesn't have one, so I'm just going to shoot them an email. I look into this house, beautiful home looking for you. Um, it's an okay area. I'm familiar where this is, but no phone number, so I'm going to shoot them an email. My email is real simple. I'm going to cover that in a minute. Here's a property management company. I'm probably not going to contact them. It just kind of depends. This is a good area. Um, I might call them, but typically I avoid property management companies. All right. And here's actually a house for lease purchase. This is an agent that's doing this house. Anyway, beautiful single-family home. Oh, here's a great house. I would contact them. Here's a phone number. I'd either cold call them or send them a text message, and I'm going to show you that here in a second. Okay, now that's the for rent section. In Craigslist for sale, real simple. I'm going to go here. I'm just going to real estate by owner, search, and these are all of the houses real estate by owner, but I want to look for only the nice ones, right? I'm going to kind of take out the junkers. So I do 100,000 plus, and I want 3+ bedrooms, and I click search, and I got 603 of these. Every day there's usually 10 to 20 that get posted in Craigslist. And so I contact them and ask them if they want to do a lease purchase. It's simple as that, okay? And basically my question is, hey, could I lease your property for a period of time, a year or two, and then buy it? Would you be open to doing a lease purchase? Just right to the point. And that's what I do. Now, the other thing you can do is look up homes in the for sale by owner section, right? So just go to Google and just type in for sale by owner and look, and you can see a bunch of them here. For sale by owner is a good one. .com. Type in your zip code. Let's do this. Zip code is a good one. And what's that? Want to learn more? Search homes. 63368. Okay, this is a good area, and you just find some homes. You look it up, and there is the phone number right there. You can call them and ask them, hey, what are you going to do if you can't sell your house? Are you going to rent it? Well, why would you want to rent it to a tenant? Why don't you rent it to somebody who wants to buy it? All right, and it's as simple as that. Now, let's go back here. For sale by owner in Craigslist and other FSBO sites. Now, there's also expired listings. I love expired listings. I send them postcards or yellow letters, actually. Yellow letters are better. Absentee owners, I send postcards to them. And basically, I'm looking for absentee owners that have owned the house. Well, you know what? I used to filter out. I used to say, only give me the absentee owners that have owned their house for over 10 years. But now I do pretty much all of them. And active listings is a great ninja strategy for finding sellers who'd love to sell their house but can't, and I'm sending actual postcards or yellow letters to the owners of these listed properties. And I'm not a realtor. I can do that. And that's something that I cover in the course that is very, very, not too many people are doing that. And you have to be careful how you do it, that you do it the right way. You want to make sure that you don't encourage the seller to cancel their listing with the agent. You work with realtors through this strategy, but it's a great strategy to use. Okay, so those are my 4 favorite ways. Again, I'm flying through this, so I hope you can understand. The 4 favorite ways to contact the sellers once you find them. All right. I wish I could share with you more. I got tons of these that I love, but cold calling is probably the best. Now, for me, if I were really hungry and I wanted to do a deal as quickly as possible, I would probably just pick up the phone and call 10 to 20 sellers every day. It's probably the fastest way to a deal. But it's hard, right? I don't handle rejection very well. I don't know if any of you do, but I would rather only talk to sellers who raise their hand and say, I'm interested. So how do you contact them? Well, 3 of my favorite ways are through text messaging, through emails, and direct mail. And I cover all of this in a ton of detail in the course, but just wanted to make you aware of this. Text messaging is awesome. I don't know what the percentage is, but most of the ads in Craigslist now, when there's a phone number, it goes to a cell phone in Craigslist. And so my text message is real simple. Hey, I saw your house on Craigslist. Would you be open to selling it on a rent, own, or lease purchase? If so, give me a call, and I give my phone number. So I do the same with text messages and emails. My message is real simple. A couple sentences. I give them my phone number. I don't send them to a website. That phone number comes either directly to me or to a voicemail. It works really, really well. On Craigslist, if you do it right, you can expect about a 15 to 20% response rate. Now, with postcards and yellow letters, you're lucky if you get 5 to 10% response rate. Okay, emails are very, very powerful. And direct mail, I love direct mail because you can target specific homes that only you want, that you're interested in. Okay. I'm reading the questions here. Okay, so direct mail, you can target homes in specific zip codes with a specific number of bedrooms that have the 2-car garages, that are in certain school districts. And one of my favorite sources to send postcards to is actually FHA and VA loans in the last 3 years, because these are people who have purchased a home, have no equity because they only put down 3.5%. It's been already past the huge drop that we had in 2008. And so a lot of these people have a lot of equity in their home and love to sell their house but can't. So, but I love direct mail, and it's very, very effective. So if you can combine these things, the great thing about this too is you can outsource all of this. All right? I'm going to show you in the course how you can outsource your emails, your text messaging, even your cold calls. You can outsource to VAs or local friends that can do all of this for you, and it's so easy to show them how to do that. Now, there's some important keys for marketing to sellers. Consistency. So important that you're consistent with this. Now, I say consistency because if you don't do it, it won't get done. Now, maybe you're completely different from me, but I know when I was doing this and getting started, I realized pretty quickly, man, if I don't get somebody else to do it, it's just not going to get done. If I rely on myself to do all this marketing, which I know is so important, if I don't train somebody else to do it, it just won't get done. But I was really intimidated at first. How could I pay somebody else to do that? How can I train them? How do I know they're going to do it right? They're not just going to rip me off and da-da-da-da. And I just took the plunge, man. I said, I've got to figure this out if I'm going to make this work for me. And I realized very quickly how easy it is to find a virtual assistant to do all of this marketing for you and how cheap it is. It's amazing. I have about 3 or 4 full-time VAs right now that we pay about $500 to $700 a month each to do all of the marketing for us. And they're even doing some marketing for our students right now too, our coaching students. So you got to get it done. I believe in marketing done for you in spite of you. Okay? It's really important you get that marketing consistently out there. It's important you track your sellers, and there's a lot of really, really good tools to track your sellers with. You've heard me talk about FreedomSoft in the past. You can just use spreadsheets. You can use Google Docs. But it's important that you track your sellers so that you know when you're supposed to call somebody back. Let's say they tell you on the phone, I just need to think about it. I'm not that interested. So you need to get off the phone immediately with them because they're not ready to do a deal. But you need to follow up with them in 30 days, 60 days. Ask them, hey, have you sold your house yet? Oh, sweet. I just got a text from Gil, my business partner. Many of you know Gil. We'd made an offer for owner financing for a particular house, and the owner wants to move forward, and they want to see the paperwork. Sweet. All right, cool. So get virtual assistant to do all the marketing for you. Stop wasting your time with unmotivated sellers. This is really important. You've heard it taught probably by a lot of people that it's really important to build rapport with the sellers. And I'm going to ask you, really? Is it really important? President Truman said, if you want a friend, get a dog. You're not in this business to make friends. You're in this business to make money. And you're in this business to make money today. Do you agree with me? Yes or yes? All right? You are in business to make money today. Now, I'm not saying you need to be rude to people and, if they're not motivated, get off the phone and tell them where to go. But I'm saying be friendly, be nice to people, okay? But you should be off the phone in 3 to 5 minutes with every seller you talk to. Either they're interested or they're not. They're in or they're out, okay? I used to go through and explain all the benefits and waste all this time explaining. I was always feeling like I was selling myself, selling this and selling that, and I always felt intimidated, like, man, why? But then I just said, I got to figure something else out. I just need to ask questions. Instead of asking, tell me about the house, I'm just like, now, what's your situation? Why do you need to sell this house? Why haven't you sold it yet? What are you going to do if you can't sell this house? Now, I'm going to be going over some questions here in a minute, but I just started listening more and asking questions, and I found the dynamic completely changed, and I'm now more in control of the conversation with these sellers, and I can find out really if what I'm offering them is really going to be helpful or not. I mean, I tell the sellers it's okay to say no. I also tell them, look, this probably is not for you. If they start bringing up a bunch of objections and questions, I say, look, this probably isn't for you. That's totally okay. I understand. I don't want to waste any more of your time. But so why don't I just mail you something or put you something in the mail or email you something, and you can think about it and get back to me if you've changed your mind. All right? I'm looking for sellers that want to do business today. Now, you have to know how to give good phone. And what I mean by that is, that's from one of my coaches and mentors, Claude Diamond. You've got to know how to talk to sellers. You are in the business of marketing. You're not in the real estate business. You're in the sales and marketing business. So you could get your phone to ring, but unless you know what to say to sellers, you're going to be dead in the water. So once you learn how to stay in control of the conversation and ask the right questions with redirection, and learn how to ask the questions that stir the seller's emotions, because sellers make decisions based on emotions and justify it later with facts. It's really important to understand that. So what are some good questions to ask sellers? I'm going to run through these real quick. I love asking things like, sounds like a really nice house. Good grief, why haven't you sold it yet? Oh, I don't know, but how long has it been for sale? 6 months. Man, I can't believe it. You haven't sold it yet. Boy, you must have a lot of money in the bank to cover that payment, You can probably wait another 6 months, can't you? Or something like that. And then I ask them, like, what are you going to do if you can't sell this house? I can guarantee you their realtor's not asked them that. What are you going to do if you can't sell this house? Are you going to rent it? Well, okay. Why not rent it to somebody who wants to buy it? Because most of the first thing they're going to say is, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't know. I feel like I'm out of choices. I don't have any other choice. I don't want to give it back to the bank. I don't want to drop it down to 50% of what it's worth to compete with all the other foreclosures. I'm probably just going to have to rent it out, but man, I don't want to do that. Well, what if I could show you how you could lease your property to somebody who wants to buy it, who's going to take care of all the maintenance and repairs, and then buy the house at the end of the lease period without you having to pay any realtor commissions? Is there any reason why we couldn't do a lease purchase today? Okay, what would you want to do then? That's a great question to ask. The thing I like to say too is, look, my mortgage broker and I have a bunch of buyers on the verge of getting a mortgage right now looking for homes in your area. I like bringing that up after they bring up so many objections. And I'm like, look, man, I got all these buyers. Do you want them or not? This probably isn't for you. It's totally okay to say no. But when you turn it around like that, it's amazing. Listen, the harder you chase these sellers, the faster they'll run. And then finally, I used to list all of the benefits of lease purchasing, and I just, I need to simplify this down into a question. And so I've changed it to this question of, if I could do this, okay, could you do that? Now, here's how it works. What if me or one of my buyers, and I'm talking about me or one of my buyers, because if the numbers work, I'll stay in the middle of this deal, right? If we could lease your property for a couple years, pay the rent on the first of every month, take care of all the day-to-day maintenance and repairs, and then buy the house at the end of that time without you having to pay any commissions, what would you want to do then? Or would that be a good fit for you, or would it not? What would you want to do? Is there any reason why we couldn't do business today? Well, I need to think about it. Probably, I might be able to do that. Okay, probably yes or probably no. Oh, well, let me think about it. Okay, well, how long do you need to think about it? Well, okay, why don't you send me over some stuff and I'll take a look at it. Well, okay, I'll be glad to send it over to you. That's awesome, but can I expect it? Can I hear back from you? Expect to hear back from you by like 6 o'clock tonight? Well, no, I need to review it with my wife. Oh, great. Well, when can your wife get on the phone? Let's just talk about it when she's available. Well, send me something and I'll review it with her. Well, all right, if I send you something, can I get it back by tomorrow at 3 o'clock? You see what I'm doing is I'm giving them deadlines. That's what I'm going to be talking about here. Because you don't want to waste your time with tire kickers. So you want to ask them the right questions and say, look, is there any reason why if I can solve this problem for you, is there any reason why we couldn't do business today? All right. Those are the questions that you're going to ask sellers. Give them deadlines. Don't just send your contract to everybody who says, I'm interested, because 9 times out of 10 you will not hear back from them. And there's other things you can do, like explain their options, and I just don't have time to cover this right now. But I tell sellers sometimes, look, you can sell it through a realtor, but you're going to have to pay all of these costs. Okay. You could drop your price to compete with all the REOs and foreclosures on your block to sell it fast. You could do that. You could stop making your payments and give the house back to the bank and do a foreclosure. Or what else could you do? You'd rent it out to a tenant who's not going to care about it. Or you could rent it to somebody who's going to buy it. Okay? Now, can you think of any other alternatives? Do you have any better ideas? Because I don't know if I have any others. But why not rent it to somebody who wants to buy it? So I just kind of push the pain buttons a little bit and then drive them to pleasure, point them to pleasure. And remember, they make decisions based on emotions and justify them later with facts. Okay, so that's marketing for sellers. Now, how does it work? Once you find a seller who says yes, you get the property under what I call an option to lease option. Now, there's different ways to do these deals, and I'm only going to cover the main way that I do it. And there's many reasons why I prefer this, but one of the main reasons is I just give the seller a one-page option agreement. They tell me what price they want, the rent they want, and then I take care of the rest. I don't have to explain the numbers to them. I don't have to explain, okay, well, you want 140, but I'm going to advertise it for 150. So I'm going to put 150 on this contract, and that's what you have to sign. And the other reason I love this option, lease option, because I'm not showing all my cards to the seller. I'm not giving the seller all of my lease option contracts. Okay? They just get one document, which gives me permission then to mark the home. So do you have to go meet the seller, see the house? No. You can if you want, but I get the sellers to sign my agreement online. And then the seller sends me pictures, and the seller shows the home. Okay? That's a great thing. You can literally do this virtually from anywhere in the world. You don't need to negotiate with sellers. My offer is this. What do you want? I'll get that for you. Now, you then have to set the option price and the rent. So you need to know what the owner wants to walk away with. What does the owner want in rent? And you need to know, you add in the rent credits. So the option price, and I'm going to review these numbers in the example deal here at the end, but the option price is the seller's asking price plus the option deposit, which is your profit, plus rent credits. That's how the formula works. Now, the option deposit is just a round number. It's usually, I figure, 2 to 3%. All right? It's usually in St. Louis $4,000 or $5,000 plus rent credits, and they usually do about 30% for rent credits for 12 months. I'm going to show you the numbers here in a minute. So make sure the seller is current on their mortgage. That's really important, and you want to make sure the seller understands the risks. The first document they signed with me, I explain all of the risks to them. The tenant buyer may not buy the house, they may not pay their rent on time, and they may trash the property. And you need to inspect the property at least once a month, and you need to start the eviction process the day the rent is late. So I explain all of the risks to them, and they still sign the agreement, and that's as easy as it gets. So you found the seller, you signed the paperwork with the seller, then you find a tenant buyer. And you start advertising the homes. And guys, this is really complicated. Get your pen and paper out. You ready? How do you advertise the homes? Well, best places to find buyers right there. Craigslist and bandit signs. Craigslist, bandit signs. Simple ads are the best. All right. Now, bandit signs, my favorite is simply this. Owner will finance. This is yellow sign handwritten. Owner will finance. Poor credit okay with $5,000 down. 3-bedroom, 2-bath with large backyard. Phone number. Now, why do I say owner will finance? It'll get you more calls if you do that, and you get more serious buyers if you do that. Now, you can still do a deal as owner financing if you wanted to, and I'll teach you how to do that, but I typically do that with bandit signs just because it pulls better. It gets more calls, more serious calls. But Craigslist and bandit signs, that's it, okay? Then you're going to advertise the house on your website. You're going to create some postlets and V-Flyer, which are free. Put some signs and flyers in the yard, send it out to your buyers list, send it out to social media. If you're not a realtor, hire one. I recommend that. And then it's important to get a good checklist. And my checklist is one of the most valuable things in my course because it breaks down everything you need to do by responsibility. Okay? Your responsibility is you, your virtual assistant in the Philippines or wherever, and your local sales rep or your realtor with responsibilities checked off. You've got your checklist leads to checks, okay, folks? So it's important that you get that checklist in the hands of the people that are working for you so they understand everything and you won't forget anything. So now you're advertising and marketing the home. You need to find a good quality tenant buyer. So you're looking for someone who has at least 3% down. Sometimes I'll take 2%, but that's a whole other topic that we'll go into. And you want to make sure they have a realistic chance of getting a mortgage. And how are you going to know that? Well, you're going to have your mortgage broker review your applications. Your mortgage broker needs to tell you when they can get a mortgage. You want to make sure they can afford the house. And you want to make sure you're familiar with the FHA guidelines. So you know, well, they need to have this certain debt-to-income ratio. They need to have these things. They need to be 12 months removed from any lates, or they have to be da-da-da. These are types of judgments that they can't have. But that's where a mortgage broker comes in. And one of the things I teach is find a mortgage broker who understands lease options, and I can recommend mortgage brokers to you. You want to do a background check, and you want to make sure you collect a deposit to hold the house. All right? Now, then you're going to sign the lease option paperwork with the tenant buyer. The way I do it is I sign the option to lease agreement with the seller, and I sign the lease option paperwork with the tenant buyer. And then I assign that lease option back to the seller. Now, there's another way to do this that I teach in the course, but I think this one is the easiest because of the benefits to it. But it removes yourself from any future risk. You want to make sure the seller signs off on the new tenant buyer and accepts all liability. They sign that in the assignment agreement. You want to make sure the tenant buyer has the right to make sure the mortgage is current. And there's obviously the seller's disclosure statement in the lead-based paint. A lot of different things, okay, that make this all fit together. Don't get overwhelmed by those details because it's covered in the checklist, okay? And I partner with students on deals. So right now we're working on one with a student of ours, Joel, and he's actually meeting with the tenant buyers to sign everything this weekend, and we're helping him with the contracts. In fact, he was a little uncomfortable putting anything in his name, so we're putting the whole deal in my LLC's name, and we're setting it up where we're split everything 50-50. So we're helping him with all the paperwork, and it's just a great all-around win-win deal. Okay? So you sign the lease option paperwork back to the seller. Now, outsourcing the selling part to realtors. And the reason I think this is important is some states have certain rules and restrictions on doing deals without a license. Now, you can argue till you're blue in the face that, look, this is an option contract, and I have the right, I have equitable interest, I can advertise these homes because I am a principal. And I would agree with you, but sometimes that's an argument that's just difficult to argue. So I suggest, look, you need to outsource the selling part of your business anyway, right? Because you don't want to be taking calls, driving around town all day, showing these homes. So why not outsource it to a realtor? It's really easy to find a realtor, and I'll teach you how to place an ad in Craigslist, what to say, and how to pay them. I pay them $500 or 20% per deal. I just give them my checklist. That's it. I just tell them this is what you need to do. And then some things that you can have the realtor do, just running through this real fast. For an example, I have them take pictures and video, do the bandit signs and the sign in the yard, create the V-flyers and the postlets, advertise the house on Craigslist 2 or 3 times a week, update the website, take calls, show the home, coordinate showing home with the sellers, communicate with the sellers every week, every 2 weeks, take applications and take deposits. Okay? So they're doing all that work so I can focus on what gives me the best return on my time, which is talking to sellers and working on my business, not in it. So now you get paid. You keep the option deposit as your check. You're out of the deal, so you're just assigning your rights to a way to buy the home. And you should consider having the option check made out to an escrow company. And I teach you which escrow comes to you in the course. So you want to make sure the tenant buyer gets into a good credit repair program, is working with your mortgage broker. And by the way, I recommend good credit repair companies in the course. And this credit repair company actually has mortgage brokers that does loans all over the country. So it's really helpful to use somebody like that. And don't forget the checklist. I keep on harping on that because it's so important. Real simple step. Find it, flip it, forget it. Okay? Find the seller, find the tenant buyer, you get paid. That's how it works. Keep it simple. Okay, I know I covered a lot of stuff. I covered it really fast, but just in the interest of time, I got to get through this. Now, here's an example deal. I wish I had pictures. I didn't include them here. This is a really nice house in a great area. And It's an expired listing. The seller wanted $245,000. Their family. The family owned this house. The mother and father had deceased, and they'd rehabbed it. And it was a very nice home. They were hoping to sell it for like 265, but it had been on the market for a year, no interest at all. Very tough market. So they decided to do a lease purchase. They wanted to walk away with a minimum of $245,000, and the market rent. I'd say a good fair market value for the house was about 260. So the way we structured this was real simple. The seller just told me they wanted 245 to walk away, and they wanted 1595. Now, did I have to tell the seller how much I made? No, I didn't. I told the seller it doesn't matter how much I make. All right, you just tell me how much you need, and I'll take care of the rest. So I bumped the price up to 259. Now, how did I do that? I took the 245 they said they wanted, and I added $9,000 for the option deposit, which is about 3%. And then I added rent credits to cover the buyer's closing costs. I took the $1,595 times 25% times 12 months. All right, that gave me the option price of $259,000, which is real close to the current market value. Everybody's happy, everybody wins. We found a tenant buyer within 3 weeks who had $9,000 put down, and I kept that. I pocketed it in Pocket National Bank. And the tenant buyer was a professional doctor, both the husband and the wife. The husband, who had the large practice, had some mental issues, lost everything, and subsequently the IRS went after him for a couple $100,000 in back paid taxes. Just a tragic story, and he didn't have health insurance. His health insurance didn't cover his issues. And so they were in the middle of rebuilding their lives, and over the last couple of years they've been selling all of their assets and paying off their debts, and they were just one condo away. They owned several homes, several cars and boats. They were just one condo away from selling that and then paying off their tax lien. And the market stinks right now, and they just could not sell this condo. So they're currently renting it out. But they wanted a nice place to live, and they wanted to be in an area that they were proud to call home because they're professional doctors. They're trying to get back on their feet. So anyway, this was just a win-win for everybody involved. They love the house. The sellers love them. I still keep in touch with the seller. So everything's going really well. $9,000, man. Put that under an option contract, assign it to the buyer, assign it back to the seller, however it works, and I made $9,000 in 3 weeks. Now, how many of you could use $9,000 to put that into your bank account right now? How many bills would that pay? Okay, would that get you caught up a little bit? Would that help you breathe a little better? Imagine doing 2 or 3 of those a month, guys. I'm not trying to hype you up. Well, maybe I am, because it's real. You can do this. You can do this. All right? So let me talk about the 3 keys to success in this business. If you want to take it to another level, guys, you need to understand marketing, automation, and delegation. These are the 3 keys to success, I believe. Marketing, number 1. Why? Because you're in the business to make money today. How do you do that? You get leads, and the more leads you have coming in, the better, because then you can just pick the low-hanging fruit as it comes in. Now, again, I've said this time and time again. You are in the marketing business. You're not in the real estate business. You're in the sales and marketing business as well. Okay. Now, automation. You need to have systems for your marketing so that you can take the marketing that you learned that works and develop it, put it into a system like McDonald's that can be duplicated over and over again. Every McDonald's you go into all over the world is going to have the same systems, the same French fries, the same hamburgers that they sell anywhere in the world, with the same way to make them. So once your marketing is automated, so you get somebody else to do it, then you can delegate it, and you can hire somebody else to do it all. That's the beautiful thing about this business. I have students who love their jobs. They love being an architect, and they don't want to leave their job, and they're wondering, I just need a little bit of extra money so we can take our families on vacation once in a while and enjoy some of the freedom that you have, but I don't want to leave my job because I enjoy it. Well, that's the great thing about wholesaling lease options, is because it's so easy to outsource. It's systematize and outsource this stuff. So keep that in the back of your mind: marketing, automation, and delegation. And that is the main goal in my course and with all my students. I want to help you get those systems set up so you can be successful. Okay? Marketing, automation, and delegation. And that's why I created this Wholesaling Lease Options Academy. Now, I created this academy. I have a big course that I sell for $9.97 on my website, and it's a big monster course. I give you the whole blueprint to my business um, in one giant mind map. And in that, I have everything from A to Z, step by simple step on how to do these deals. But I created the academy because for some people, $9.97 is too steep, um, and it's maybe too much to take in all at once. So I've broken up my entire course into 24 weekly modules that you can just get a little bit at a time. And the cool thing about the way I've set it up that I'm so excited about is because within the first couple weeks, you should know enough that you can get a deal under contract and partner with me on it. Now, I partner with my students on deals once they get it under contract, just like we're doing with Joel a minute ago. He's going to make $9,000 on this deal. He's getting $4,800 up front, and he's going to be collecting $4,200 over the next year. So he's going to be getting about, what, $350 a month for the next 12 months for this house. So you get to partner with me on deals like that, and I'm going to walk you through the checklist and selling the house and marketing it and all that you need to do. Now, the cool thing is, once you do a deal, if you send me a video testimonial and a copy of your check, you get free lifetime access. So you should know within the first couple weeks what and how to do a deal, and then you go out and get a contract, property under contract. If you want to partner with me on it, that's great, and we'll split the profits. Then you get lifetime access, and you never have to pay for anything ever again for this course. Now let me show you kind of what's in here. Once you log in, you get this welcome screen here, and there are weekly modules. Every week you get a new module. You get access to a new one. The first 2 weeks I cover in more detail this kind of crash course, and I cover in here, for instance, in the second course, you'll see, if I open this up, there's a video, and you get the seller script with all the good questions in there. You get the sample follow-up emails to sellers. It's important once you get a seller who says yes, here's the emails that you send to them to follow up. How the numbers work spreadsheet basically breaks down by deal, how do the numbers work? How do I come up with the option price and the rent credits? And every video I have here, the mind map, you get the mind map to it, okay? And you can open it up in Adobe. It's not a mind map format. They're PDFs, so you can open them up on any computer. And then this video, you can watch me go through this stuff. And so I talk about how to treat it like a business, how to set up your office, how to set up all of your systems treat it as a business. I go into detail about how to, oh good, I got a couple videos on a lot of these things. I got 2 or 3 videos. How to build your websites, how to use things like FreedomSoft and DocuSign, voicemail and faxes. I'm going to show you how to do market research and how to find the buyers, what to look for. Marketing by the numbers is so important. I'm going to show you how to develop goals and track your progress and know, okay, if you want to make $100,000 a year, how many sellers do you need to talk to every day? How much marketing on Craigslist do you need to do? What do you need to, kind of postcards you need to send out? How many postcards you need to send? And that's so important because that's something that you can control, right? You can control how much marketing goes out every day. Marketing for sellers, where to find the sellers, how to contact the sellers, what to say to them, how to create buyer and seller videos. I really enjoyed this one, how to find buyers, how to do buyer and seller videos. I'm going to talk about scripts and what to say to sellers and how to track them, talking to sellers, how to stay in control, and how the offers you make and how you follow up. I'm going to talk about in week 13, meeting with the sellers, overcoming objections. I'm going to be showing you different presentations and seller presentations that you can give and hand out if you want to meet with sellers. We're going to do some sample seller calls in here. We're going to do marketing for buyers and then cover the checklist and how to find a realtor to sell your homes and what to pay them and how to pay them, how that all works. Marketing for buyers, we're going to be showing you how to create the ads, how to build your buyers list, and how to review applications. There's this whole strategy of finding the buyers first that I love because you can find people that have the deposits or the down payments that you need first and then go find a home. And I got it set up where I actually make the buyer go out and look for the home and send them to me, and then I call the seller. So I'm making them do all the work. And I require they pay a deposit to get me some kind of a deposit before they even start working with me. So I'm going to show you different ways to do the paperwork. The main way to do it, and the second week is the alternate way to do it. There's different ways to do these deals, and I can cover both of them. I'm going to cover a deal from beginning to end with all of the details in it, and then I'm going to cover promissory notes. And this is where what you can do is get great passive monthly income from promissory notes as they come in every month. from people that don't have enough deposit up front. I'm going to show you how to outsource this business from A to Z so you can scale your business. It is so easy to do this. And I know it's intimidating maybe at first, but I'm telling you, it's really easy. And I go through step by step how to find, hire, and train your own $2 an hour virtual assistant. I'm also going to show you how to do consulting. So sometimes the seller may say to you, look, I don't want to lease purchase. I can do it on my own. Or they may say, I don't want you, I can't let you keep the entire option deposit. I need some of it myself. Well, what do you say to them? You could tell them, okay, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you. But you could offer your services as a consultant and say, well, look, what if I could teach you how to do everything and give you all of my contracts and give you access to my buyers? What would that be worth to you? Well, I'd love that. Okay, well, so I'll show you how to charge 1 month's rent and get paid up front to be a consultant for these sellers. All right. And I'm also going to go into sandwich lease options and how to do traditional wholesaling. And there's other things I'm going to throw in there. I'm still working on these last few weeks here, but things like how to lease option junkers, and that's a whole other great business, and even how to flip leases just in themselves. So in here, I have a section for documents and resources where you can go in and see the documentation that I have. And I'm just giving you a little bit at a time. Right now you only see a few of them because of my membership here on this example here isn't fully released yet. But there's not a whole lot you need, right? The property information worksheet is all that you need to get filled out. You send that to me and we'll partner on the deal. It's just 2 pages. It's a property information worksheet. Get the seller to fill that out. There's no negotiating, and then we can we'll partner on the deal and go through selling it. So where do you go to get more information about this academy? Let me give you the website. You go to WLOacademy.com. WLOacademy.com. And let me just go there real quick. And you'll see there that, okay, it should work here. I kind of explain everything I just talked about. You can also get access to our next Wholesaling Lease Options Bootcamp, which is going to be in March. You get to come to that. And you listen, guys, you get it for free once you do a deal. You get lifetime access. Just send me a copy of a check and a video testimonial. You get free lifetime access. I sell this whole thing for $97 on my website. Now for $97 a month, you can get the entire Wholesaling Lease Options system in 24 weekly modules. And I cover here in detail everything that you get so you can review that. Okay. And I'm also going to let you, if you want to pay it all up front, I'm going to knock $100 off, and you can get it for $482. If you don't want to pay the $97 a month, it's a non-commitment, so you can cancel any time, but it will only charge your card for 6 months. All right? But if you want to save $100, you can order this now. You will get weeks 1 through 4 instantly, but then after that, the modules are going to be released weekly. Okay, so they'll still be released weekly. And again, if you want all the paperwork, I can certainly give it to you, but you got to do it. Get a deal under contract, okay, and then I'll give you all the paperwork and we'll partner on that deal. Does that make sense? So don't forget, you get lifetime access once you do a deal, and you send me a quick video testimonial. So check that out. Go to WLO Academy, okay, WLOacademy.com. I'm telling you, this is a steal because I can sell this thing. I do. I sell it all day for $997, and you can get a great deal here. And I don't know anybody else who teaches this in as much depth and detail as I do. So go to WLOacademy.com. Now, we got some time for questions here. I want to do what I can to answer them, and I know you probably have a ton of them here. I'm just going to kind of go to go down here. You guys are sending me all kinds of messages. I couldn't see your screen. I know. I apologize about that. And then here are all of the yeses. Now we can see them. Shoot. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. Here's the questions. Regarding lease options, a friend told me that the tenant. This is from Joe. Regarding lease options, a friend told me the tenant buyer needs to go through the underwriting process, pre-approval, before you can place them in the home. What is your experience? I'm not sure exactly what I mean. We do get applications from the tenant buyers, and we pull their credit, and we look at their situation. We do a criminal background check. We want to make sure that they have a realistic chance. First, can they afford the home? And then we're going to make an assessment with our mortgage broker. What do they need to do to fix their credit, and can they do it in a year or two to get a mortgage? And that's kind of the pre-approval that we go through. What do you think about long-term lease options like a well-known guru teaches for 10 years until the equity is built up and the tenant can buy? That's interesting, Clay. Sometimes there's homes that are underwater, and those are tricky. You know, I may still do a lease option and flip it if it's maybe 5 to 10% underwater, but I'm going to make the option period out 3 to 5 years. Now, sometimes there's sellers who are so motivated, they don't care if you lease purchase the home for 300,000 years. They need somebody in there ASAP because they can't make next month's mortgage payment. Okay. Now, I may do a longer-term lease option with them because that's their best alternative right now. They can't sell it any lower. They can't drop the price. They don't want to rent. They don't want to be a landlord because they're moving to Texas. So I would be okay with a longer-term lease option. I've never done one for 10 years. That's interesting. I don't see why you can't do it. You certainly can. And if the house is that much underwater, you want to make sure the tenant buyer knows that. So if you're going to do 10 years, you want to make sure you have full disclosure to the tenant buyer. Okay? No, it is not illegal, George, to do wholesaling lease options in Florida. It's not. I mean, anywhere. It's not illegal anywhere in the U.S. If you can lease a property and if you can sell it on an option in 1 or 2 years, which you can in every state that I know of, even Texas, you can do wholesaling lease options. Sometimes the question becomes, well, can I do it without my realtor's license? And again, I say 2 things to that. Either get your license or find a realtor to do this for you. Right? You got to outsource that part anyway. Why not just give a realtor to do it? RC asks, it seems sellers want a couple months down payment on a lease option. If you are sharing with a realtor and a VA, what is left for you? Well, if the seller wants a couple months to keep for a lease option, they're not going to get it from me because I'm not going to work with them. They can probably do it on their own. I may offer my services as a consultant for them for a fee of 1 month's rent, and I'll show them and teach them how to do what I do. But that, I have to make at least $4,000, $3,000 sometimes on a deal. So sometimes I'll be willing to share a little bit, maybe half a month's rent with a seller or a full month's, depending on how much I think I can get on the house. But if they want too much, you just can't help them. And not every seller wants that. I've just talked to one today. Again, I told him, do you understand? I keep the option deposit. I keep the entire option deposit up front. Yes, I understand that. Great. Let's do business. Okay? I just tell them that's the way it is and that's what I expect. And I rarely have a seller that says no. If they say no, then I ask them what their options are. Are they just planning on doing it themselves? I say, look, if you want more money, then just tell me up front and bump that price up at the beginning of how much you want to walk away with. So when you share a realtor, I pay a realtor's $500 per deal, sometimes more, or 20% of whatever I make. So yeah, you do make less when you outsource to a realtor, but it's well worth it for all of the work that they're going to be doing for you. And so even after the VA, I pay my VAs, like I said, a part-time VA, by the way, you could get a really good part-time VA for a couple $100 a month. And if you're doing 3-4 deals a month, what's $200? Okay. So I hope that answers your question, RC. Gerald asks, can you tell us a little bit about your workshop in March with Wendy Patton? If you invest in the Academy, you get access to the boot camp we're doing in March with Wendy. It's 3 days in Detroit, and it's going to be really good. The boot camp will be half of it. Wendy will be talking about sandwich lease options, and the other half will be talking about cooperative lease options and how to flip lease options. It's a really good event. You don't, well, it's an event where we kind of roll up our sleeves and actually start doing things and making calls and walking away with appointments with sellers when we get home. So it's a really good event. I'd encourage you to go if you can. And just a little heads up, I'm going to be doing something soon with Todd Toback, and we're going to be putting together an event in California that I'm really, really excited about. And you'll be hearing more about that in the future, so just keep your eyes and ears open for that. What was the title service you spoke about in the academy willing to do the servicing and title searching for the students nationwide? This company in particular, like the escrow service, I think that's what you're talking about, they will not do title searches. You just need to network with your local RIA group and find out which title company a lot of the investors are using, and find out from them if they can do quick title searches for you. And if they know you're an investor and you're serious and do a lot of deals, you should get a pretty good price. I mean, just a quick title search shouldn't be more than $50, $75. Okay? And I don't pay for that until I find the tenant buyer, because you don't want to pay for that every time you get a house under contract. And many times on the internet now these days, you can find a lot of this stuff for free. Do you tell the seller that you don't have any buyers yet and you may put signs in their yard? Yeah. I mean, I do tell the sellers I have buyers right now looking for homes in their area, and I do. If you have one buyer in your buyers list, you have buyers. Or if you're networking with a mortgage broker who has a bunch of buyers who can't get financing, then you have a buyers list. And yes, you do get permission to put a sign in their yard. Sometimes they'll say no, that's fine. RC also asks, does the seller tell you that I could hire a realtor to do what you were doing and keep the fee for themselves? Not sure. If a seller is bringing up objections and questions, I just move on to the next seller, man. I just say, okay, I'm sorry, I probably can't help you. This obviously isn't for you. Go ahead and use your realtor. And then I'm going to call them in a month and ask them, hey, how did that go? You sold your house yet? Okay. If the seller's behind on the mortgage, you cannot do a wholesaling lease option unless you're willing to get them current on their mortgage with part of your profit. So I refer them to friends who do short sales, and I get 20% of their profit when they complete the deal, if they do. How do you make sure the seller stays current on their mortgage? Great question. There's several ways. One of the ways is get the authorization to release information for the tenant buyer, so the tenant buyer every month can check to make sure the mortgage has been paid. I recommend using a third-party payment escrow service, and I give you access to those tools on in the academy, in the course, of third parties that will actually collect the rent and pay the mortgage and give the difference to the seller. If you can get another party that does that, that way this tenant buyer knows the mortgage is being paid and the seller knows the rent is being collected. Okay. Without meeting the seller face-to-face, how do you get them to trust you? Great question. You get them to trust you by just having confidence in your business. A lot of them do go to my website and look at it and see my testimonials on there. They can see that I'm a member of the Better Business Bureau and I'm a member of the local Chamber of Commerce. They'll look you up on the internet. Now, I make my contracts, they're non-exclusive. Okay, I explained to this that, look, you can cancel my agreement anytime. This agreement is non-exclusive. So if you can cancel it, and I don't get paid anything. So really, what's there to lose? Okay. Someone else asks, Clay asks, how does the new SAFE Act affect the owner financing techniques? That is a good question, and it's different in every state. The SAFE Act really applies to owner financing, and from what I have seen of it, it does not affect lease options, which is another reason why I am a big fan of lease options, because the SAFE Act does not affect it. You're not owner financing anything. And a lot of people who do a lot of owner financing, there's ways to work through the SAFE Act by either working with a mortgage broker or just doing a lease option. Okay, so somebody else asks here, your realtor puts up all their bandit signs? Well, the lady I have right now working for me, she does not do the bandit signs herself, but she has an assistant who does, and so that's what we're doing. Okay, does this work in small towns like the one where I live, at least when starting out? I really believe this works anywhere in the country, right? But if you do work in a small town, your problem is probably going to be finding enough sellers to do marketing to from Craigslist. But the great thing about this business is you can do this business virtually. So if you live in a small town, man, I'm sure you have a big state, a city somewhere in your state, right? So you can start marketing in that state, all over the state for sellers. Okay. Vincent asks here, consulting to and for sellers are considered in most states to be realtors' work and thus must be licensed. I kind of disagree with you, Vincent. You're a marketing consultant. You're not finding a buyer for them. You're not finding a seller for them. It's just like somebody selling a book on how to sell your house for sale by owner, and you pay the author of that book $15, and they teach you how to sell your house for sale by owner. So you're just teaching people how to do a lease option, and there, I could put you in touch with some resources that have spent a lot of time looking into that and can answer the question better than I can, who have done a ton of consulting. But if you really look at it, it's not. A realtor is representing. Being a realtor and brokering deals is when you are representing a seller and finding a buyer for the seller. That is brokering. Okay, but selling advice, you can do that anytime without a license. It's not a big deal. Partnering on deals. How do we split the returns on the deal? If you want to partner with me on a deal, it's real simple. You have to be a member of the academy, number one. And two, you just get a property under contract and we split everything 50-50. Okay? Simple as that. Now, at the beginning, I will give you a joint venture agreement that spells everything out, so you'll see there in writing what you do and what I do and what we're responsible for and things like that. Vincent, you say here no reply. I just did answer your question, so maybe I'm missing something here. Now, the price for $482, you do not get everything all at once. Scott's asking, if I pay $482, do I get it all at once? No, and why? Because I'm still adding these academies, these weekly academies, these modules. I'm still building it as we go. Every week I release a new module. So you're going to get weeks 1 through 4, okay, which I'm telling you is a ton. Already there's a lot of stuff right there, and in a week you'll get number 5, and then in a week you get number 6. Now, you may be saying, well, what about all the paperwork? Listen, if you get a property under contract, you get the seller to fill out the property information worksheet, which you get in the first week. You can partner with me on that deal, and I'll give you all the paperwork at that time. The reason why I do that, to be honest, is because I don't want to, because I sell this course for $9.97, okay, guys? And if I were to give all of my paperwork away with the first week, somebody could just probably sign up for the first week and then cancel. That's why I do what I do and the way I do it. But you do get access to the first 4 weeks if you pay it all at once, and you get access to the academy for life. So it's not like 6 months later you lose access to the academy. You get access to it forever. Someone asks here the difference between the Wholesaling Lease Options course and the academy. Paul, it's real simple. The academy is my entire course broken up into weekly modules. Now, if you already have my main course, you may not need the academy, okay? The main course has everything in it already. I don't hide or not put anything in there. It's all there in the main course. The reason I created the academy was to break it up into smaller modules and to make it a little cheaper so people could afford it who could not afford my main course. So I hope that answers your question. How do the sellers get to buy back the option? I'm not sure I understand that question mark. How do you get the sellers to buy back the option? Mark, go ahead and rephrase that question if you don't mind, and I'll get to it. Do you recommend working with family and friends in this strategy? Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. Depends on how cool your family and friends are. I don't like personally working with family and friends. It gets a little dicey. FreedomSoft is associated with Fortune Builders. I don't know, they're not. Maybe Fortune Builders promotes and recommends FreedomSoft. I recommend FreedomSoft because I use it and it works. It works great. I'm proud to recommend FreedomSoft. I know a lot of people don't like the way they do their marketing and don't like being bombarded with emails, and that's fine. I can understand, but I use FreedomSoft and I love it. If I could show you my account right now, you'll see we have in there 10 to 20 new leads every day we're putting into FreedomSoft, and it just manages it really, really well. So I'm not associated with FreedomSoft or Fortune Builders. Fortune Builders is a great organization, great coaching program. But if that helps answer your question, I hope. Does this work for properties with no equity? Yes, it does. Now, if they're underwater and they have negative equity, it depends. We answered that before with questions of, well, can you do a 10-year lease option? I suppose you could. I typically don't do any longer than 3 to 5 years if it's maybe 5 to 10% underwater. Okay, so that just depends. Joe asks, how do you get cash flow from these deals? Well, you get cash flow, one of them, through promissory notes. If you're looking to get $5,000 down, but the seller only has $3,000, but they have good income, the tenant buyer only has $3,000. I tell them, well, we can finance the other $1,000 or $2,000 for you. And so then we set up a promissory note, and I set up an automatic withdrawal from their bank account on the days they get paid, and I withdraw $100, $200 every paycheck to pay for their down payment, their future down payment, and I collect that. So I show you how to set that up. Somebody asked, the other way you can make cash flow, Joe, is to stay in the middle. And one of the things I talk about in the course is my perfect tenant program. And sellers love this. I tell them, look, if you're worried about being a landlord, let me be the tenant. I'll be the tenant, and I'll take care of everything for you. How does that sound? Oh, that'd be wonderful. I love that. Okay, well, I can only do it if the numbers work. So what's your monthly mortgage payment? Well, it's $1,300. Okay, so I could probably rent this place for $1,400. I don't think I can make that work. I mean, if I can rent it for $1,400, I'll pay you $900 a month. So some sellers may take me up on that, but that's the only way I'm going to do that deal if I'm making at least $400 to $500 a month in cash flow. But that's my perfect tenant program. I tell them, look, I pay for, I'll take care of all the maintenance and repairs. I'll pay the rent whether the house is vacant or not. I'll take care of it all if the numbers work. Okay, and I teach you that, how to set it up where the numbers do work. The other thing is I give you in the course. There's companies that I use that will actually insure the rent. They will give insurance to the seller if the seller's worried and wants it for lost rent. If the tenant moves out or gets evicted, they will actually pay the rent for 60 to 90 days with this insurance, and you can set it up where the tenant pays for it. It's really cool. All right, so do you ever use a memorandum of option? And I'm guessing you asked, do I file that memorandum of option? No, I don't, and I'm on the fence on that issue. What I do say, I do in the contract, I say, look, you can file the memorandum of option if you want, Mr. Tenant Buyer, but you have to get the owner's permission to do it. And I'll let them work it out. Steve, you say hi. Hey, Steve, it's been a while. Hello back. Somebody asks here, John, do you still use CallFire as a source for mass texting and sending voicemails out? Yes, I did. Many of you got a voicemail and a text message from me reminding you of this webinar. I used CallFire for that. And that was a good little lesson to show you what sellers may see if you do CallFire. Now, I don't use CallFire anymore. I don't do voice blasting anymore, John. I still kind of recommend it, but I say, look, use it at your own risk. Because there are certain rules and it's a gray area. And when you're in the education business, you've got to be really careful about recommending things in the gray area. So that's a great question. I probably just have to say, look, to cover my own butt, seek legal advice, whether you should do, because there's laws about robocalling and things like that. And you could say, look, they gave me their phone number by putting it in Craigslist, and they want me to call them if I'm interested in buying their house. And there's ways you can do it, but I'm just saying do it at your own risk. Plus, I have found that cold calling works so much better, actually. Cold calling works a lot better. I get better results with it, and as long as somebody else is doing it. Somebody asks here, what about rent credits? Is there a danger of giving the buyer equity? I don't set up my rent credits that way. My rent credits are very clear in my contracts that they only go towards the closing costs. Okay? They only go towards the closing costs. And I don't have an issue with that. Oh, Alberto, this was a very good and informative session. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Alberto. I appreciate that. What website do you use for comps? I cover that in a lot of detail in the course. But one of my favorites is just Realtor.com. And Zillow and Trulia. Don't just ignore what they tell you the estimated value is, but just look at what similar homes are actively selling for and what similar homes have sold for in the past. And you can get all that information at those websites. If the tenant buyer defaults, is the contract null and void? Yes. Now, if the tenant defaults, do they do an eviction? I will just help the seller find another tenant buyer if they want. Does the realtor list the house on the MLS? No. If I'm using a realtor to help me sell this house, I do not let them put it on the MLS. It's just more hassle than it's worth. And I don't get too many buyers from the MLS anyways. What is the conversion rate that you've experienced? That is to say, how many people actually buy, or do you even care since you assign it and then move on? If they don't buy it, what does the seller do? Come back to you? No. My conversion rate, boy, that's a really hard question to answer, and I get that a lot. And the reason why it's so hard to answer is because look what's happened in the last 2 or 3 years in this economy, in this market. I mean, house values are still falling. Who would have ever predicted 2 or 3 years ago that we'd be where we're at today? I mean, I remember everybody saying, especially all of the financial gurus and economists from Realtor, from the National Association of Realtors, um, so giving glossy, rosy pictures of how we're at the bottom, things should flatten out, we're predicting things to go up. Man, that never happened, and it just got worse. And we're not. Now everybody is saying we still got another couple of years, and I think that's the general consensus. So part of the problem is the conversion rate. Man, the tenant buyer might get their credit fixed, but they can't get a mortgage because the house isn't worth what it was a year or two before. It's dropped in value, and banks are continuing to tighten their standards. It's getting harder and harder to get a mortgage. Um, so when that happens, usually what happens is we just extend the lease option another 12 months. Most of the time the sellers are happy with the tenant buyer. They know they don't have any other options. They got somebody in there who's taking care of the house. But why not just give them more time? And so that's usually what happens. We just extend the lease option another 12 months. If the tenant buyer doesn't buy and they move out, no, the seller does not come back to me. They can't. I mean, I've explained all of those risks to them, and it's agreement between them. I will say this, and I have different categories of tenant buyers. Some tenant buyers, I tell the seller understands the chances of them getting a mortgage are very low. And the reason why they're willing to accept that is because they have a house that is in a junky neighborhood. And two, they understand they're very motivated. They do not have any choices. They've got to get somebody in there right away, or else they'll miss next month's mortgage payment. So we'll make sure the person can afford the home, but then we won't we give them realistic expectations that how long it's really going to take. So some of those sellers, my conversion rate is not very good on those homes, and the seller knows that up front. Now on this conversion rates when the tenant buyer is very close, I'm 50-75% of those buyers will actually get a mortgage. So there's different categories. There's not a good conversion rate across the board. And it's a very difficult question to ask because there's so many factors outside of the tenant buyer's control that will affect them getting a mortgage. All right, so that's a good question. Thank you, Joe. You're welcome, Clay. What happens to the seller once you do the lease option? Can they buy the house again, or do they have to rent? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jay. What happens to the seller once you lease option? Oh, can they buy another house? Well, I always tell the sellers they need to find that out right away. So I tell them, look, go talk to a mortgage broker. Can you qualify for another mortgage? If you're going to rent this house out, you need to find that out. And so you got to have that conversation with the sellers. How do you assign the contract? Great question, Jay. I cover that in the academy. Is a title company involved? Yeah, maybe, maybe not. I mean, yeah, when I have the title company do a preliminary title search, just a quick title search, I do that after the tenant buyer, we find a tenant buyer for the house. What if the seller's price plus option fee plus rent credits equals more than the comps will support? Then I do a 3 to 5 year lease option. I extend it, I make it longer. Okay, I just give it more time. And I tell the seller and they understand. I really have not had a problem with that. How do you handle the seller's objection regarding his or her having to retain liability for the mortgage until the home is sold to the tenant buyer? Well, I ask them if they have any other ways around it. I mean, it's not an objection really that I get. They're going to be obligated for that mortgage and reliable for it for as long as they own that house. And whether they rent it or lease option it or whatever, they're going to be liable for that. And there's nothing I can really do to help them do that to alleviate that liability. So If they're concerned about, if they don't want to have liability for that mortgage, then I tell them, well, go ahead and sell it. Why haven't you sold it yet? Well, I can't. What are you going to do if you can't sell it then? Honestly, what is the average profit per deal? Honestly, $3,000 to $6,000. And I've done more. I talked to a guy the other day who made $18,000 on a deal as a realtor. Made 18 grand. I have a student in the up north. I won't tell you where because I'm going to be releasing his interview soon here. Amazing. He did 8 deals in December, the slowest month of the year. Did 8 deals. His average profit on each was $4,500. All right, so 4,500 times 8 equals, I can't see that, $36,000 he made in December. Not bad, huh? Okay, what is the, does the seller get the first month's rent? Yes. Next question, do you scan Craigslist, send out an email, and ask if they would consider doing a lease option? Yes, I do. If they say yes, do you call them or email them back with your questions? Yes, I do. I use leasing agents for finding and placing tenant buyers. Good. Is that what you are using? Yep. Great question, Jay. I mean, I put out an ad in Craigslist. I say, hey, I'm looking for an agent to help me lease my properties, is what I say. And I get a lot of leasing agents calling me and saying, hey, I do that already all day, every day for other investors. And those are the perfect people I'm looking for. Can the seller walk away with a large part of their equity if they so wish? Yeah, sometimes, they have a lot of equity in the house, and it comes a year down the road, and the tenant buyer can get a mortgage, but they can't buy it because the house won't appraise. If the seller wants to, they don't have to. They can lower their price so that it does get sold. Hey, Joe. Interesting. Ron LeGrand is teaching the ACTS course, ACTS, the ACTS course, leasing houses for 10 years with sellers underwater, just to let you know. You have a great course, man. Keep it rocking. Thanks, Maurice. So is he talking about lease optioning? Now, if he's talking about a sandwich lease option, that's totally cool. You can do a sandwich lease option on a house for 10 years. I'm okay with that as long as the property cash flows. Okay? As long as the property cash flows, certainly you can do that. I might be a little uncomfortable doing a wholesaling lease option deal for 10 years with a tenant buyer, and unless you fully disclose everything to the seller and the buyer and everybody's on the same page, you're not hiding anything, then certainly, yeah, you can do it. Definitely. Oh, yeah, Jay, thank you very much, guys. I do have a great group on Facebook. If you go to Facebook and just search for wholesaling lease options, we have a group that's very active. We have a bunch of members in there asking questions and stuff. So check out our Facebook group page. Just go to Facebook and do a search for wholesaling lease options. You'll find us. Where do you close these? Starbucks. Is there, or at the seller's house? Is there ever an issue when the buyer goes to get the loan and they see your company collects the option? No, there's not. And that's a whole other issue I could spend 20 minutes talking about, and I don't want to right now because it's late and beat that like a dead horse. But there's ways around it. And one of the things you can do is just have the tenant buyer make the check out to an escrow account, which is what I recommend. And that way the underwriter, 2 years down the road, sees a check made out to an escrow account, just like it would be if it was an earnest money deposit on a regular sales contract. And you got to make sure your mortgage broker understands what you're doing and knows how to present the deal to the underwriter. I have never had a problem with that. Although there are mortgage brokers, if you ask around, who say they will have a problem with it, but then you need to ask them this question. Have you ever had a problem with that in the past? And the chances of saying are going to be, no, I just think it might be a problem. So you got to find the right lenders who understand what you're doing. It seems like Mark asks here, it seems like you make the seller a landlord. How do you do that? Well, I don't know. I tell them, look, you can be a landlord with a regular tenant who's going to call you every time to fix the faucet, every time it leaks, or you can be a landlord with somebody who wants to buy the house who's going to take care of all the maintenance and repairs. I don't know if that answers your question. All right. Do you supply the bandit signs, and are you sure the agent puts the signs up? Yes, I supply the bandit signs. They're real cheap, and You just got to make sure you're working with an agent that you trust. And if you don't trust them, then hire somebody else. How do you gain the trust of a seller if you're working on your first deal? Great question, Nicholas. One of the things I say is I tell my students, just tell the seller, hey, um, me and my business partner have been doing this for years all over the country, and I'm just opening a new, I'm just starting to do these deals here in my town, in Des Moines, Iowa, and so you can rely on your business partner and call me your business partner, and we'll partner on these deals together. And now if a seller starts asking you questions like, and I get this sometimes, and it's really annoying. Can you give me references? Can you tell me, let me talk to some people you've done this with before? I'm like, man, forget it. I'm sorry, this probably just doesn't sound for you like it's for you. And I asked the seller, how would you like it if I gave your name and phone number to strangers and have them call you and ask you questions about a house that they sold 3 years ago on a lease option? Just like, look, I tell them I got testimonials on my website that are legitimate. And if that's not good enough for you, that's fine. I mean, this probably just isn't for you. If you don't feel comfortable, it's totally okay to say no. But I've got buyers right now on the verge of getting a mortgage looking for homes in your neighborhood. Do you want them or not? You can cancel my agreement anytime if it doesn't work. You have nothing to lose. But if you don't feel comfortable with this, that's totally fine. Why don't you think about it and get back to me at a later date if you want to work something out. I'm only want to work with sellers who want to do business today. All right? That's how I gain their trust. I just tell them how it is, and if they want to work with me, that's great. The best students I have that do tons of deals, they're on and off the phone in 3 to 5 minutes with these sellers. It's either they're interested or not. And when you have that attitude, you'll be shocked at how many more deals you do. All right. That's my little stump speech. Yes, you get a copy of this mind map. I'll email it to everybody. Thanks for clarifying. You're welcome, Vincent. We have access to the contracts from day one. Again, let me be clear on this. In the academy, you get access to everything you need to do your first deal. Okay? Why? How can I say that? Because I'm not giving you all the contracts. You get access to everything you need to do your first deal. You're going to get the property information worksheet, get the seller to fill that out, send it to me, we'll partner on the deal, and then I'll give you all the paperwork you need until your heart's content. Okay? But I want to partner with students on deals. I can't give you all the paperwork from day one because I sell this course for $1,000, okay? And I don't want students to just buy it for $97, get my paperwork, and then cancel. I just wouldn't be fair to everybody else. But I give you everything you need to do it from day one. Just get the property seller to fill out that property information worksheet, and we'll partner on the deal. I was told years ago that I could work for a buyer but not for a seller if I wasn't a realtor. There's certain rules. Again, listen carefully. Certain rules, different states have different rules that you can do these deals as a realtor or not. The interpretation is different. Sometimes it's just not worth fighting and arguing this argument. So that's why I recommend to students, either get your license or hire a realtor to sell your homes for you. You got to outsource that part of the business anyway. So just have a realtor do it, and that fixes the problem if you don't want to get your license. Do you fill out the contracts that are assigned to the seller, or does the seller fill out the contracts? I fill out the contracts because it's a contract between me and the tenant buyer. I'm the landlord. I'm filling out the agreement with them, and then I assign that to the seller. So the seller really doesn't have anything to fill out. I'm not putting the buyer and seller together, guys. Remember that. If you do that, that's what a broker does. I am selling my lease option. That's all I'm doing. Are attendees of the webinar going to get this mind map? Yes. No problem, Vincent. It's all good. Are you offering your coaching anytime soon? Yes. If you guys are interested in coaching, on my website, wholesalingleaseoptions.com/coaching, there's a question there. It's an application process. I'm looking for students right now. If you're interested, I work one-on-one with students, but it's a significant investment. I'm not going to kid you. You get one-on-one access with me, and you get to use my virtual assistants. So it's not cheap. It's the fastest way to a deal, though. I'll be completely honest. I think it's worth every penny. So if you are interested in coaching, go to wholesalingleaseoptions.com. Right there on the main menu is a link for coaching. So check that out. Most sellers don't want to be landlords. I think I answered that question, Mark. How is this strategy better than the subject to strategy? Or you're talking specifically about wholesaling pretty houses. That's a great course, by the way. I know the guys who created that. So I'm not going to knock anybody else's course. I like lease options better than subject to simply because they're easier, and you don't have to try to convince the seller to sign over their deed. And I think it protects the seller better. It's better. It's easier to get out of a deal, and it raises less red flags for the whole due on sale clause and all of the issues associated with that. Um, I just don't like the idea of taking over the deed to a house and keeping the seller responsible for the mortgage. I like having the seller pay the mortgage, okay? Because if something goes bad, then it's the seller's fault. Or it's the tenant buyer's fault for not paying the rent. What have you done for market? And by the way, guys, I got a few more questions here. I just got a few more minutes. If you haven't already, go to WLOacademy.com. WLOacademy.com. I think you guys are crazy if you don't do this because I'm offering this. And I don't know how long I'm going to keep this going because this is a great strategy. I can only take on so many students. But check it out, WLO Academy. Got a few more questions here. Gerald, with your done-for-you marketing, will your VA input leads into our FreedomSoft account? Yes. And Gerald, you're talking about wholesalingmarketing.com. If you go to our website, wholesalingmarketing.com, we have a service where you can hire our virtual assistants to do the marketing for you. And they are already trained in FreedomSoft, and so they just need to log into your FreedomSoft account, where you can make them a user, and they will put the leads into there. Not a problem. Yep. And they can also put your leads into RealFlow if you do RealFlow. Thank you, Clay. I appreciate the comment there. Nice words. He says this was a great webinar. Thanks. You're welcome. Okay, Joe. As a non-licensed individual, can I still find the tenant buyer as I have before in the past? You recommend using a realtor, but I do not know any willing to work for anything under 50% of the option fee. Well, Joe, it's because you haven't asked. I just hired one a week ago. The lady I was using before I quit, and I found one. I pay her $600 per deal. And you just got to ask, man. I mean, there's leasing agents right now that find tenants full-time for investors, full-time, that only get paid half of a month's rent. And then they have to share that with their broker. So they're only getting $250, $300 per deal. So you just need to find out. You just need to ask. They're out there. Put an ad in Craigslist. Say you're looking for a realtor to help you lease your properties. All right. And find out where those leasing companies are. Have you ever negotiated a deal with the seller to give them $1,000 to $2,000 of the down payment if they need cash to move out of the home they are selling? Sometimes, if I know I can make at least $5,000 or something, I'll give the seller $1,000 or $2,000 if I can get an option deposit. But I cover that in a lot more detail in the course. How do you deal with a house that needs work? Good question, Clay. I do it as a handyman special, and I cover that in the course. How to set it up where I make the tenant buyer do the work before they move in. You get tons of calls on those types of deals, by the way. How many tenant buyers have been arrogant with their care of the house, like knocking out walls without permission? I honestly have rarely have had that problem. I've had tenant buyers before that didn't take care of the house, but it's very rare for that to happen. I don't know. Subject to versus wholesaling lease options. Can you compare and contrast? I did a little bit earlier, just in the question a few minutes ago, Chris. I like wholesaling lease options better personally because they're easier to do and they're less risky. I think they're safer for the seller. You don't use a title company. How do they get the title company to collect the down payment? I use an escrow service, RC, to collect the option deposit. I mean, I have the tenant buyer make the check out to my escrow account. And I show you how to do that. I show you who I use in the course. Can a realtor get paid up front from the option fee? Yeah, I just pay them when I get paid, right? How do you get paid if working this as a realtor? You get paid if you're doing this as a realtor, which you certainly can do, by just giving the seller a regular listing agreement, right? So you're going to give the seller a commission agreement that says, hey, if I find a lease option, it's a tenant buyer for this house, I get paid 3% up front. There's nothing wrong with saying that your commission is going to be 3%, 20%, 500%, $500,000. You can make your listing agreement, your commission agreement, whatever you want, right? So most realtors will just do 1 month's rent. Well, I think that's ridiculous. You as an investor, because you know better, can put on there, look, I'm going to collect 3% up front on the lease option. And if you can negotiate it, get the second 3% at the back end when the tenant buyer buys the home. So no, you're not really wholesaling a lease option. If you're doing this as a realtor, you just do it with a listing agreement, right? And if your board, real estate board, your realtor board has pre-approved lease option paperwork, you have to do that. You have to use that. Most realtors I know that are doing these as lease options usually will have their attorney write up an addendum to clarify some of the documents. Sometimes they'll use just a lease and a sales contract with a closing date 2 years in the future, with an addendum that kind of clarifies and explains some of the specific lease option issues. So, great information. Thank you. You're welcome. He who cares least wins. I don't understand that, Vincent. What do you mean? I think he who cares least loses. Maybe I didn't answer your question properly. I don't know what you meant by that. Have you ever negotiated a deal with a seller? Okay, I already answered that. How do you arrange for viewing with the tenant buyer? I have the seller show the home. I want the seller to meet the buyer anyway, right? So I have the seller show the home. Good night, Joe. Great. Thank you, Winston. I look forward to partnering with you. Yes, also. Thank you, Jay. You're welcome. How do you get the tenant buyer out if they don't make a payment? You do an eviction. In most areas, it's really not that hard to do. In St. Louis, it costs a couple $100. In some states, it may cost more. It may be harder, but that's just the way it is. I mean, again, if the seller brings that up as an objection, it's the same thing if they lease it out on their own or if they do a lease purchase. I mean, I just remind them again, this is no different than what you'd be doing otherwise. Okay, I'm just bettering the odds. With the down payment, the judge will look at the tenant buyer as an owner. That's not true. The property may to get them out. It's usually not true. But if they do have to foreclose, then they have to foreclose. And there's ways to do that. Okay, it's just rare for that to happen. If they do it, they have to foreclose, then they foreclose. In my experience, all I do is that's why I have the lease separate from the option agreement. Okay, so the owner just gives the judge the lease. Here, they've broken the lease agreement, and they do the eviction. Okay, Pam, you're asking me here. You're trying to sign, or you're trying to pay through PayPal. However, there's no option on the checkout page. Pam, send me an email at coaching@wholesalingleaseoptions.com. I'm going to type that in here for you. coaching@wholesalingleaseoptions.com, and I'll help you with that. I'm not sure what the problem is. Anthony asks, $97 per month and $1,000? No. If I said that anywhere, I really apologize. It should just be $97 a month, period. No extra money. Not sure what the issue is there, Anthony. You're welcome, Charles. Thank you for being here. Okay, a couple more. Can we bring a guest or a wife to your boot camp? Yes. It doesn't cost anything extra. Are the tenant buyers allowed to remodel the house? Yes, with the seller's permission. What is the marketing website again? Hey, Mark. Been a while. Marketing website is wholesalingmarketing.com. www.wholesalingmarketing.com. I just sent it to you. I appreciate your faith corner. Thank you, Clay, on the website. What about the buyer going around you? That's why I love the way I do it, because the buyer cannot go around me, or the seller cannot, because all they have is my option to lease option agreement. They don't have my lease option paperwork. They don't have the mortgage broker and the credit repair company and the title companies that I use and all the resources that I have. So it's very rare that a seller goes around my back. If they do, that's fine. I mean, you win some and you lose some. I don't sweat it. Thanks, Joe. You're welcome, Joe. Appreciate it. Awesome. Gerald joined the academy, and he's planning on seeing us in March. Love it. Awesome. What if the buyer goes into bankruptcy? How long will it take the seller to get them out? Well, as long as they're current on the rent, um, the seller can't get them out. So I don't, sometimes that happens, and I don't know how you can avoid that. Great, Anthony. Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to partnering with you too. Thank you, Anthony, and another Anthony. Thank you. Um, come and I'll look because sometimes I did promote if you bought it at a convention or a RIA group. I did promote and I advertised that if you bought the course, you get access to the academy for free. So let me know where you bought it, and I'll work with you. Thanks, Joe. This is great. Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate it. And what is the cost of the one-on-one coaching? Abdul Rahim. I hope I have that right. What's the cost? A lot. Let me type that into the answer box. A lot. I just sent it to you. It's different for every student, man, and it just depends on what you need and how quickly you want to get there. But I'm telling you, it's not cheap. So I have the interview thing process there on the website. Go to wholesalingleaseoptions.com/coaching, and I'm looking for serious people that want to take this to another level. And you got to ask yourself, if you want to make $100,000 a year, how much is that worth to you? If I can get you there in a few months, what is that worth to you? And by the way, for my coaching students, you do get your coaching fee back. I should have explained this earlier. You do get your coaching fee back on the first 2 or 3 deals that we do together. You get a third of your coaching fee back, and we split the difference 50-50 on the rest. Okay? I am pooped. That's a great questions, guys. I sure appreciate all of you. And I'm going to end this. Thank you very much. We'll talk later. Go to WLOacademy.com, WLOacademy.com. This is a great deal, and I'm really proud of it. I know you'll get a lot out of it. Thanks, guys.